The French Revolution. How France changed the world forever. Imagine living in a country where the rich enjoyed enormous privileges while ordinary people struggled just to survive. Food was expensive, taxes kept increasing, and speaking against the government could be dangerous. This was the reality in France during the late 18th century. Yet within just a few years, the people would rise up, overthrow their king, abolish centuries of monarchy, and forever change the course of world history. This dramatic period became known as the French Revolution. The French Revolution began in 1789 and lasted for about 10 years. It transformed France politically, socially, and economically while inspiring democratic movements across Europe and the world. Although it brought freedom and equality to many, it also witnessed violence, civil conflict, and political instability. Understanding the French Revolution means understanding one of the most influential events in modern history. Before the Revolution, France was ruled by King Louis XVI under an absolute monarchy. The king possessed almost unlimited power and made important decisions without consulting ordinary citizens. French society was divided into three social classes known as the Three Estates. The first estate consisted of the clergy, including bishops and priests of the Catholic Church. Although they made up less than 1% of the population, they owned large amounts of land and paid very few taxes. The second estate included the nobility. They represented around 2% of the population but enjoyed many privileges. Like the clergy, they paid little or no taxes while holding many important government and military positions. The third estate included everyone else: peasants, workers, merchants, lawyers, artisans, and the growing middle class. They made up about 97% of the population and carried nearly all the tax burden. Despite being the overwhelming majority, they had almost no political power. France also faced severe financial problems. The government had accumulated enormous debts after participating in expensive wars, including supporting the American Revolution against Britain. At the same time, King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette maintained an extravagant royal lifestyle at the Palace of Versailles. Meanwhile, poor harvests led to food shortages. Bread, the main source of food for many families, became increasingly expensive. Ordinary people struggled to feed their children while the wealthy continued living comfortably. Anger spread rapidly across the kingdom. At the same time, Enlightenment philosophers such as Voltaire, Montesquieu, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau introduced revolutionary ideas. They argued that governments should protect the rights of the people, power should not belong to one ruler alone, and citizens deserved liberty and equality. These ideas inspired many French citizens to demand change. In May 1789, King Louis XVI called a meeting of the Estates General to address France's financial crisis. It was the first such meeting in more than 170 years. However, disagreements quickly emerged because each estate received one vote, allowing the clergy and nobility to outvote the much larger Third Estate. Frustrated by this unfair system, representatives of the Third Estate declared themselves the National Assembly. They claimed they represented the French people and promised not to separate until France had a new constitution. This commitment became famous as the Tennis Court Oath. Only weeks later, on July 14, 1789, an event occurred that became the symbol of the revolution. Thousands of Parisians stormed the Bastille, a medieval fortress and prison representing royal authority. Although only a few prisoners were inside, capturing the Bastille showed that the people were willing to challenge the king directly. Every year, France still celebrates Bastille Day on July 14 as its national holiday. As the revolution spread, the National Assembly introduced sweeping reforms. Feudal privileges were abolished, ending centuries of noble rights over peasants. In August 1789, the Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. This historic document proclaimed that all men were born free and equal in rights. It emphasized liberty, equality before the law, freedom of speech, and popular sovereignty. Despite these achievements, the revolution became increasingly unstable. King Louis XVI reluctantly accepted some reforms but secretly hoped foreign monarchies would help restore his absolute power. In 1791, he and his family attempted to flee France but were captured before reaching the border. This failed escape destroyed much of the public's trust in the king. At the same time, neighboring European monarchies feared that revolutionary ideas would spread to their own countries. Austria and Prussia declared war on revolutionary France. Military threats increased political tensions and encouraged radical leaders to take stronger action. In 1792, the monarchy was officially abolished, and France became a republic. King Louis XVI was put on trial for treason. Found guilty, he was executed by guillotine in January 1793. 9 months later, Queen Marie Antoinette was also executed. The execution of the king shocked Europe and intensified the conflict. Revolutionary leaders believed that anyone opposing the revolution posed a threat to the republic. This period became known as the Reign of Terror. Led largely by Maximilien Robespierre and the Committee of Public Safety, thousands of suspected enemies were arrested and executed. Many victims were nobles, priests, political opponents, and even former revolutionaries. Historians estimate that around 17,000 people were officially executed, while many others died in prison or during civil conflicts. Although the Reign of Terror aimed to protect the revolution, many citizens grew fearful of the government's extreme measures. Eventually, Robespierre himself was arrested and executed in 1794, bringing the terror to an end. After Robespierre's fall, France entered a period known as the Directory. The new government attempted to restore stability but faced corruption, economic difficulties, and ongoing wars. Political instability continued, creating an opportunity for a talented military leader to gain influence. That leader was Napoleon Bonaparte. Through remarkable military victories, he became one of France's most popular figures. In 1799, Napoleon carried out a coup d'état, overthrew the Directory, and became first consul. Many historians consider this event the end of the French Revolution. Although Napoleon eventually crowned himself emperor, he preserved many revolutionary reforms. His legal system, known as the Napoleonic Code, established equality before the law, protected private property, and influenced legal systems around the world. The French Revolution permanently changed France. Absolute monarchy disappeared, feudalism ended, and citizens gained greater political rights. The revolution demonstrated that governments could be challenged by ordinary people demanding freedom and justice. Its influence extended far beyond France. Revolutionary ideas inspired independence movements in Latin America, democratic reforms throughout Europe, and later struggles for human rights across the globe. The famous principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity became enduring symbols of democratic values. However, the revolution also revealed the dangers of political extremism. While it promoted freedom and equality, it also descended into violence and dictatorship. This complex legacy continues to fascinate historians today. More than 2 centuries later, the French Revolution remains one of history's greatest turning points. It destroyed an old political system, introduced powerful new ideas about citizenship and human rights, and reshaped the modern world. The revolution reminds us that the desire for justice and equality can transform societies, but also that achieving lasting freedom requires wisdom, balance, and respect for human life. The story of the French Revolution is not simply the history of one nation. It is the story of ordinary people challenging injustice, demanding representation, and changing the future of the world forever.